Hey folks, this is Kalani. It's Prepatch Day. It's finally here. Hopefully you were able to log in sometime today with all of the extended maintenance, though it's not really altogether too surprising that things are breaking or taking time to come together. This prepatch is huge. There are so many changes going through and there's a lot of preparation for the Dragonflight expansion release. Now we all know about the big changes by now, but there are a lot of smaller but still very important and impactful changes that might have slipped through the cracks. From additional collection achievements, new ways to play the game, odd or weird interactions between the old Shadowlands and the new Shadowlands, as well as some changes that might save you some gold or even real life cash. There's a lot to break down, so let's go through 22 important lesser known changes that are included in the prepatch you really need to know. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Now one of the most important changes that you might not know about comes with the huge talent overhaul. Hopefully you know about this by now, but talents are changing in a big way. You can even save talent presets, export and import presets, search the talent menu, and all sorts of extra fun stuff. But the part you may have missed is that we can now change talents anywhere, anytime, with almost zero restrictions. So you don't have to be in a rested area anymore, and you don't need to carry around inscription tomes, and you don't have to hearth out of your raid for the 6th time tonight just to swap a couple things around between boss fights. You can make your change, wait for the little cast time, and that's it. Talents changed. This is going to be so much better, and it really lets you experiment with your talents much easier and more freely, especially when you're out in the world. It might be a bit of a hard habit to break initially, going for a rested site, but now you can freely change talents. Another big change in prepatch that you might have missed is an update for race and class combos. With the prepatch now live, you can make a rogue, mage or priest with pretty much every race. The only limitation left for these races is the Drakthea race, but that doesn't really count. So every race can now be a mage, rogue or priest, so I can't wait to see all the Tauren rogues running around, trying and probably failing to stealth. Are you going to take advantage of any of these new class race combos? Let me know what character you're going to make in the comments below. Now before we continue, today's video is sponsored by Bloodline, Heroes of Lithas. Build up your kingdom, collect a wide roster of heroes, and combine their bloodlines to create your own unique legendary champions. Face off against mighty foes in visually impressive 3D environments with interesting stories to follow and work through, all in the name of protecting your precious kingdom. If you haven't played Bloodline before, it's a great time to jump in and see what's on offer. The game just received its largest update yet, introducing the hybrid system. You can customize your champions by combining the bloodlines of different races to create hundreds of different hybrids with a whole new power of their own. This month is even more exciting due to the Halloween event starting on October 27th. There's a new vampire bloodline to collect and combine with powerful blood magic to decimate your foes. By playing during the Halloween event, you can even get one of these vampire heroes for free. You can download Bloodline for Android or iOS for free, and if you click on my link in the description or scan my QR code here on screen, you get a special starter pack worth $20. So it's a great time to start playing Bloodline Heroes of Lithas if you haven't already. Now getting back to the video, just in case you were worried you wouldn't have any room for extra Tauren rogues or Draenei rogues, there is another change coming with prepatch that should make you very happy. The previous 50 character account limit is being increased. We will now be able to create up to 60 characters across our accounts, so we can cram another 10 alts into our already massive alt armies, you know, just in case you needed to make one Drakthea on each of the servers you play on, alongside some of these new race class combos, and everybody could use another hunter, right? Well, we get an extra 10 character spaces to play with, so you won't have to go hunting for characters to delete to make a few extra tunes in the prepatch and beyond. Now, while we're on the topic of new character options and changing your character about, another change you might not have heard of is that the Barbershop and all of its associated services will now be completely free. So no more gold costs for your haircuts or facelifts or tattoos or anything else these miraculous barbers have managed to incorporate into their little businesses. This is going to be especially useful when the evokers are enabled, because let me tell you, with the sheer number of customization options there, you'll be spending a lot more time in the barbershop to make your little dragon as perfect as possible. So go wild with your characters. There's no more risk to your gold pouch now that barbers are free. Moving on, we have a few new collection-related achievements to work towards. To start with, there's a new mount meta achievement. If you collect 500 mounts, you'll earn the Thanks for the Carry achievement, which rewards you with the otherworldly Ottook Carrier. It uses one of the new mount models in Dragonflight with a slight twist in the Odin Wield soul effects. It's a cool-looking mount, and it can also fly, and has an increased swim speed, if I remember correctly, so it's kind of a 3-in-1 mount. It's not just for mounts though, there are also 4 new meta achievements for battle pet collecting. For collecting 1,250 pets, you'll earn many more mini minions and get the crystalline mini monster pet as a reward. For collecting 1,500 pets, you'll earn proven pet parent with the secretive frog duck pet as a reward. For collecting 1,750 pets, you'll earn what can I say, they love me with the violet violence pet as a reward. And then the last one is 2,000 pets to earn good things come in small packages with the Mr. Muxoxeles pet as a reward, a nice little nod to Mr. Mistopheles. Another nice quality of life change related to battle pets is that you can now use battle stones directly in the pet catalog or collection menu. Previously you would have to summon the pet and use these items on the summoned pet in the world. That made it quite annoying if you had multiple pets you wanted to use items on, so it's a small change, but it will save a lot of time if you love to tinker with pet battles. Another small but interesting change comes in with the new UI overhaul. We can customize a lot of different aspects of this new UI and move everything around and all that wonderful stuff, but a small detail you may have missed is that Horde players get a new action bar art border thing. Where the Alliance get griffins on either side of their main action bar, the Horde will get a new wyvern option, so that's a fun little addition. As part of the new customization options, you can also turn these off if you don't like them, so you don't have to look at them if you don't want to. Moving on, you've probably heard that Dragonflight will be completely changing how professions work. We won't see most of that until Dragonflight itself launches, but we will see the new updated UI for professions in the pre-patch, so you can start to get used to that. But the main thing I wanted to point out that you may have missed is that a lot of the profession icons themselves have also been updated. Some of these have been in the game since the very start, or since the professions were introduced anyway. Jewel crafting was back in the Burning Crusade, and then inscription was back in Wrath, if I remember correctly. It's crazy to see these icons get replaced, but I think the new ones do look much better, and it's a great time seeing as so many other changes are happening right now. A neat little extra thing for professions is that you can also start to equip your profession tools. This will only work for very specific cases where a tool already exists, and they will be replaced very quickly when Dragonflight actually launches, but it's nice to get that inventory slot back if you're still running around with a mining pick or a skinning knife, and it gives you a little peek at how profession tools and equipment is going to work in Dragonflight. It's not just profession icons that are getting updated. Gathering node icons on your minimap will also be changing with the pre-patch and Dragonflight. Instead of just being a little yellow dot, the icon will now actually show you what kind of gathering node you're wandering over to. So there's a different icon for herbs and a different icon for mining nodes. This also helps you differentiate between other sources of yellow dots like hunter tracking, interactable objects, and anything else the game wants to plop on your minimap. So you should know exactly when you're heading to a herb or an ore, and that's a nice little change alongside the massive profession overhaul. There is another icon update with the pre-patch, though this one isn't really relevant to professions. Rares will have a new minimap icon as well as a new portrait icon to signify their status. It's a little 4-pointed star, and while I think this is a bit more obvious on the minimap itself, when it comes down to the rare in-game, we no longer have that super obvious dragon around the portrait. It's just the little 4-pointed star, so recognizing that could take a little getting used to, especially as we head into Dragonflight, but that's the new rare icon as of pre-patch. Now, there are some types of content that are actually being disabled with the pre-patch. To start with, Timewalking Mythic Plus will no longer be available after the pre-patch goes live. With all dungeons making their way back into the rotation in the Dragonflight Mythic Plus Keystone system, it doesn't make much sense to also have another system or feature that uses old dungeons for the Mythic Plus system at the same time. So as we move forward, Timewalking Mythic Plus will be disabled. We might see something similar return later, but for now we'll just have to look forward to the new Dragonflight set of dungeons for Mythic Plus. Another type of content that will be disabled in the pre-patch is the Mage Tower. This was previously opened up permanently, so you could try your hand at these class and spec challenges whenever you wanted to, but I guess the pre-patch is going to break things more than the dev team were maybe ready for, because they've decided to completely disable the Mage Tower until sometime after Dragonflight. That should give them some time to make any changes necessary to maintain the Mage Tower challenge, while also making sure the challenge is actually completable with all of the class changes coming with pre-patch and Dragonflight. I'm not really surprised in the slightest that the Mage Tower would maybe have some issues as we head into Dragonflight, so it's probably better that it's being disabled for the time being. Moving on, there are some changes to how Shadowlands raids are going to work for this last little leg of the expansion. To start with, all 3 Shadowlands raids will be fated until Dragonflight releases, so it's not going to rotate anymore. All 3 raids will always be fated until we move on to the next expansion. That means everything drops the better loot, you can get more credit towards your dinar currency quests, and you can complete various endgame expansion or end of season requirements and achievements, like the Slime Cat mount, which is a reward for completing all 3 fated raids or normal. So at this point, you could actually do that in one day if you really wanted to. In addition to that, Shadowlands raids are actually going to use group loot in the pre-patch. You may have heard that raid loot in Dragonflight is going to be completely different. We will no longer have the option to use personal loot at all in raids. It's group loot only. It looks like the dev team don't want to wait until Dragonflight to implement that change in design philosophy. They're pushing it through almost as soon as possible. So we'll have about a month or so to get used to that raid loot change in Shadowlands, which is going to be a bit of a strange transition if you've never played with group loot in the game before. Honestly, group loot is kind of just personal loot with some extra steps, so hopefully it won't be too bad overall. Another change related to Season 4 of Shadowlands is that when pre-patch hits, all of our set bonuses are going to be disabled. Most of this is probably due to conflicting abilities, effects being reused in the talent tree, and some set bonuses not even being totally relevant anymore, so it makes sense. This also gives us a chance to use our talent trees without too many other external influences, so set bonuses and tier sets are going to be completely turned off now that pre-patch is here. Now, something that will remain active are Shadowlands legendaries, providing you're in the right area anyway. While you're in a Shadowlands zone or instance, your legendary effects should work perfectly fine as they did before the pre-patch, but if you wander outside of the Shadowlands in its respective areas, your legendary effects will not work anymore. The tooltip will say you're in the wrong zone. That doesn't really affect us right now, seeing as most of our activities will be inside Shadowlands areas, and any activities that aren't probably don't require you to have them enabled anyway, so this is a change for leveling in Dragonflight more so than anything else. You can't take your Shadowlands legendaries with you, I'm afraid, so they're only going to work inside Shadowlands going forward. Another borrowed power system from Shadowlands that is changing with pre-patch are the Covenant abilities. This is a bit weird during the transition period because quite a few Covenant powers made their way into the talent trees, but they are also available to use as normal, typical Covenant powers. So how exactly does that crossover work? It's pretty simple, actually. They're the same thing. If you have the Covenant power and the talent tree power at the same time, they are treated as if they are the same ability with the same cooldown. So if you use the talent, it puts your Covenant ability on cooldown, and if you use the Covenant ability, it puts your talent on cooldown. There are some outliers here where this doesn't apply right now, but I expect they are not intended and will be fixed to behave in the same way as all the others. So you can't double dip and use 2 Convoke the Spirits, but you can swap your Covenant to then have access to 2 different Covenant abilities, technically, but again, this is just for pre-patch and will not matter as we head into Dragonflight, as you cannot take your Covenant abilities with you either. They have the same zone restrictions as what we're going to expect from legendary effects. As soon as you leave the Shadowlands, your abilities will not work if they're a Covenant ability, and while you're not in the Shadowlands, those abilities actually completely disappear from your spellbook. Now, if parting with your Covenant abilities is just too much, I do have some good news for the Night Fae players out there. There's a new toy that lets you use soul-shaped forms outside of the Shadowlands. You can get this toy by visiting Lady Moon in Ardenweald. There should be a quick quest that rewards the toy, but you may need a certain number of soul shape unlocks to trigger the quest. Either way, this is going to let you use your collected soul shapes as we head into Dragonflight. Another very interesting update that has flown under the radar for a lot of players is the addition of controller or gamepad support. Usually you would have to install add-ons to get this kind of thing to work, but now it's all baseline in the game by default. It's still a work in progress by the looks of things because it seems like you still have to use a console command to get started. If you type in /console space gamepad enable 1, that will turn on gamepad control. This automatically sets up some keybinds for you and lets you control your character with the thumbsticks instead of your mouse and keyboard. Now you can go all in and set your keybinds up however you want. You can use the trigger buttons as modifiers to give you more keybinds, and it actually seems to work quite well. With all of the extra features that have been crammed into the Dragonflight expansion, and in some cases the pre-patch, this gets even better. You can auto-target or soft-target monsters just by looking at them with the new action combat option. This also means you don't really need to tab target, which works so well when you play with a controller. You can also set an interact key to just interact with any quest objects or NPCs right next to you. So instead of clicking on an item or NPC, you can just run up to it, press your interact key, and that will do it for you. Again, fantastic for controller use. So the major problems with using controllers have been addressed for the most part, and functionality has been added to the game baseline for you to just plug in a controller, set up your keybinds and go have fun. You don't need any add-ons or complicated setup, and you don't even really need to use your mouse anymore. I'm very surprised by how well this works, and I might actually start using a controller for some lazy gameplay, you know, like world quests, old raid farming, or anything else where I don't need to pay too much attention or need perfect control of my character. With this change in place, I actually don't think console WoW is unrealistic anymore. As we start to explore the pre-patch, another very important change is going to take place. The Shadowlands expansion will be rolled into and included in the base game. So if you haven't purchased Shadowlands at all, you actually don't need to anymore. If you have friends or family who have been waiting on the sidelines, not wanting to spend too much money to see if the game is worth their time, this change significantly reduces the overall upfront costs of getting into WoW. You will still need to purchase Dragonflight if you want to head over to the Dragon Isles or create a Drakthir Evoker, but for everything else in the game right now, it's already in waiting for you. It's also a great time to get back into the game, in my opinion. So many things are changing for the better, and Dragonflight is shaping up to be a lot of fun. Now that Shadowlands is included in the base game as well, you also don't have to worry about that extra cost. And then the very last change, which I hope you will notice, is that we have a new login screen with new login music. So we don't have to wait until Dragonflight launches for real to enjoy a new login screen. It's finally time to say goodbye to Shadowlands as we head into a brand new adventure. Now, with how automated the login process is these days, you probably won't spend too much on the login screen itself, fingers crossed anyway, but if you fancy a little break from the game to chill and just stare at some pretty art with some nice music, the login screen is all updated, ready for Dragonflight. But that's 22 lesser known but still quite important features and updates coming in the pre-patch you may not have known about. Was there anything new to you on this list? Is there anything you think should be on this list that wasn't included? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I'll see you next time.